So hello everyone. Uh, Welcome wherever you're calling in from. And if you haven't been to the class before, my name is Vajra Devi. And the class format runs like this. Usually I'll say a few words for 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll sit for about 40 minutes, which I'll lead into usually about halfway through. And then there's some time at the end if you have something you'd like to say about your practice. Okay, so this morning, or not this morning because it's not morning for everyone, but whatever time of day it is for you. Yeah, I wanted to say something about well, it's the aspect. Well, I'll come to that. I was at the theatre at the weekend. That's my starting point, really. Went to see a play um, about Sir Thomas More, historical figure, 500 years ago, Tudor England. I'd been a bit reluctant to see the play initially because he's portrayed very, very positively in the play as a man of real integrity, uncorruptibility, and yeah, it's just sort of very intelligent, educated his daughters, etc. Um, yeah, so but there's another side to him, quite a dark side to him. But I'd been watching Wolf Hall, which is about Thomas Cromwell, as many of you know, and the man who, in some senses, brought the demise of Sir Thomas More. So he's the baddie in Sir Thomas More's story, and it's the other way around in Cromwell's story, really. In some ways, you see just quite a different side of Sir Thomas More. So anyway, these figures have been in my psyche since I was a teenager, and love of Tudor history. Um, but I realised at the play that which is very, very well done, and it's partly that really. I realised that once again how easy it is for the mind to side with a character in this case, or characteristics in another person or in ourselves, to slip into identifying with particular sides of someone, with one side often of a person or ourselves. So then it becomes really easy to slip into absolutes. This is right and this is wrong. This is good and that is bad. So really sort of simplifying something that's actually a very complex picture. And as many of you will know from being on retreat with me, when I talk about moha or delusion, one of its characteristics is this simplification of experience into an absolute, a right or wrong, a good or bad. It's easy to forget that, and this fits more with conditionality, the perspective of conditionality, that we are seeing some sides of a situation, some conditions that perhaps lead to a particular aspect of a personality or particular way of behaving. We're not seeing the whole picture. We're not seeing all the conditions or all the sides of a particular story. The mind tends to identify with a few or one, actually. So it points to the importance of both sort of kindness, the sense of not judging or condemning, which is what happens often when we're seeing with the simplified picture, and relying more on awareness, which has this quality of impartiality about it. It's seeing with a more balanced mind. It's seeing with the perspective of right view, which brings in equanimity and wisdom. And the wisdom in this sense is very, very simple. It's this lack of identifying, leaping to identify with perhaps quite a small part of the picture, a small aspect of ourselves in this moment, or somebody else. So sometimes we have to act on the basis of of partial information. But if we can remember that our perspective is likely to be limited, then again, we've brought in that wisdom perspective, the right view perspective. We're less likely to sort of leap to these conclusions that the mind is very good at doing. And we're more likely to spot the views that we have identified with, the views that the mind prefers in that moment, and see that we're going with preference. Remembering that this tendency of the mind to come to premature conclusions, it's very natural. It's not something we need to sort of blame ourselves for. It's really natural, but it's a very limited way of seeing things, of experiencing the world. So that the awareness practice helps us not only see both, if you like, the different sort of seasons in us. This play was called A Man for All Seasons, you might have guessed. So yeah, it helps us to see sort of different aspects of ourselves without identifying so strongly with them. And then we're in a much better position to see both sides, the dark and the light. Bhante famously said many years ago, this was when he was on a very, very sort of, his pedestal was his that he hadn't created at all, but his pedestal was very high. And he said something like, I'm much better and much worse than you think I am. So he was really prepared to know a whole range of himself, to know himself completely rather than just a small sort of preferred range. So I think the awareness practice just helps us be able to be with different aspects of our being, perhaps quite fleeting, but to know ourselves more fully, and learn not to over-identify with particular aspects of ourselves, which just then hardens into this stronger sense of self, rather than, if you like, many selves that are dynamic and fluid and can't be pinned down, but can be known. And this is not to sort of not to, what's the word? Well, it's a way of taking responsibility for, we can see ourselves in this very dynamic way, but without taking it too literally. I'm thinking of another quote from Sayadaw U Tejaniya when he says, the mind is not yours, but you are responsible for it. So we don't own the mind, but at the same time, we have a responsibility to know it, to know the different aspects that get thrown up and acted out. Okay, so that's it for today. If you like to set yourselves up for meditation.